The automatic doors of Terminal B at Elmsworth International slid open with a pneumatic sigh, spilling a gust of cold morning air onto the polished floor. Ariana and Alina Coleman stepped inside, their wheeled suitcases humming quietly behind them. From a distance, they looked like any other teenagers on their first solo adventure, matching box braids tied back in twin buns, university sweatshirts slightly too big for their frames, and sneakers that had walked more than a few honest miles. But they weren't just any girls. And this wasn't just any trip. This was their first time flying alone, a symbolic threshold between adolescence and independence. Their father, Jeremiah Coleman, had finally agreed to let them travel without supervision. It wasn't a matter of control, but of protection. He had always been cautious, almost to a fault. But when they received invitations to attend prospective student weekends at Eastbrook University and Langley Tech, he'd relented. He even booked them first-class tickets, not as a statement of status, but out of care, comfort, space, and the peace of mind that someone would look out for them if something went wrong. Ariana glanced at her sister as they approached the SkyBridge Airlines check-in counter. "Still feels weird without Dad hovering, huh?" Alina smirked. "Yeah, I half expected him to follow us in disguise." They shared a small laugh, unaware it would be the last time they smiled easily that day. The line at the counter moved efficiently. A few business travelers in suits, a couple of families with overstuffed carry-ons, and two elderly women comparing cruise itineraries. When it was their turn, they stepped up together, handing over their passports and printouts. The agent behind the counter, white, mid-40s, with a SkyBridge lapel pin and a name tag that read Eric Dawson, barely glanced at them. He looked past them, literally. "Next," he called out, waving to the man standing behind them. Ariana blinked. "Excuse me, we're—" The man behind them, a middle-aged white man in a golf cap, stepped forward without hesitation, clearly assuming the girls were in the wrong line. Eric greeted him with a cheerful, "Good morning, sir," and began processing his documents. Alina tilted her head. Was that deliberate? Ariana hesitated. "Let's give it a minute." But the minute stretched, then another. Finally, after the man behind them walked off with his boarding pass and a smile, Alina cleared her throat. "Sir," she said politely, "we've been waiting. We were next in line." Eric looked up at last, as if noticing them for the first time. His eyes were flat. "Step back, please. I'll help you when I can." "We've already waited," Ariana said, her voice calm but unyielding. "We have a flight to New York. First class." Something flickered across Eric's face. Surprise, maybe, or suspicion. "First class, huh?" He took their tickets reluctantly, holding them as though they might smudge his hands. "You're sure these are real?" That word, real, landed with more weight than he probably intended, or maybe exactly as much. "Yes," Ariana said, trying to steady her breath. "Our father purchased them directly. We have confirmation." Eric examined their IDs. "Student identification only? No driver's licenses?" "We're 17, Alina explained. "We were told these would be acceptable for domestic travel." Eric exhaled sharply, the way someone does when they've made up their mind before hearing the facts. "Well, someone told you wrong. Wait here." He disappeared into a back room, taking their tickets and IDs with him. The girls waited. 5 minutes, then 10. Around them, other passengers moved efficiently through check-in, handed their passes with smiles, and received warm, "Have a safe trip" wishes. Ariana and Alina stood still, invisible to everyone but each other. When Eric finally returned, he didn't meet their eyes. "There was an error in the system," he said, placing 2 new boarding passes on the counter. "You've been reassigned to economy, gate 16. Ariana scanned the slips. "These aren't the seats we booked." Eric leaned in slightly, his voice dropping just enough to turn cold. Some people need to understand that first class isn't for everyone. Be grateful you're getting on at all. The implication was unmistakable. Alina's lips parted, fury rising, but Ariana placed a calming hand on her sister's arm. They had been taught, too many times, that anger from young black women could be twisted into aggression. And aggression, in these spaces, came with consequences far beyond words. "We'd like to speak to a supervisor," Ariana said instead. "Supervisor's unavailable," Eric snapped. "You can take it up at the gate." The girls gathered their belongings and stepped aside. The air between them felt heavy. "We should call Dad," Alina whispered. Ariana shook her head. "Not yet. He's in that board meeting today. Said only call if it was a real emergency." Alina looked at her, eyes dimmed. "This feels like one." Ariana didn't answer. Behind them, Eric watched with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Then he picked up the phone and spoke just loud enough to be heard. "Yeah, it's Dawson. 2 girls, black, matching IDs, first-class tickets, but something feels off. Might want to flag them. Could be trying something." Ariana and Alina didn't hear those words, but soon they'd feel every ripple. The line at security wrapped like a lazy river. Sluggish, crowded, vaguely aimless. Ariana and Alina joined it with quiet resolve. Their boarding passes now downgraded, their identities questioned, but their posture still upright. For now. The TSA checkpoint buzzed with the routine chaos of travel, bins clattering on rollers, laptops being revealed like secrets, shoes shuffled off with mild embarrassment. White passengers moved through with clinical efficiency. ID, scan, nod, pass. It wasn't fast, but it was frictionless. When the twins approached the conveyor belt, a woman in a blue uniform stepped forward abruptly. "You two, random screening this lane," she gestured. Ariana paused. "Is something wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," the agent replied with a smile so thin it was nearly translucent. Her name tag read Michelle Langford. "Just routine, step to the side, please." Alina looked around. No one else had been pulled. No random, just them. They complied. Their bags were redirected to a side table. Michelle pulled on gloves with the slow deliberation of someone preparing for war, disguised as protocol. "Remove everything from your carry-ons. All compartments, all pockets, everything." Ariana unzipped her bag, careful, methodical. "This is my laptop," she offered. "Please be gentle. It has all my schoolwork on it." Michelle yanked it out anyway. The bottom edge scraped hard against the metal table. Ariana flinched. "No guarantees," Michelle muttered. Alina's journal was flipped open without warning. Notes on page corners, photos tucked between pages, all exposed under Michelle's indifferent gaze. "What are these?" she demanded, holding up a small orange bottle. "Fexofenadine," Ariana answered. "It's allergy medication. Prescription. The label's right there." Michelle gave it a long, theatrical stare. "We'll have to set this aside for secondary review." The pills were swept to the far end of the table as though they might explode. Behind them, another TSA agent approached, arms out, feet apart. It wasn't a request. The pat-down that followed wasn't gentle. It wasn't even neutral. It was personal. Hands pressed too firmly against their backs, lingered too long around their waists. Alina gasped when gloved fingers poked beneath the waistband of her sweatpants. Michelle watched, arms folded, lips curled in judgment. "Elaborate hairstyles like that, always gotta check. You'd be surprised what people hide." 2 agents nearby laughed. Ariana's fists clenched, not from fear, but from restraint. A white woman in line, early 30s, professional looking, stepped forward with her phone held up. She was filming. "This is wrong," she said. "They're teenagers. You can't." A supervisor appeared like a summoned ghost. Ma'am, recording security procedures is prohibited. Delete that video immediately. It's not a security procedure, the woman countered. It's harassment. You can delete it or be detained for questioning. The woman looked at Ariana and Alina, apologized with her eyes, then lowered her phone. By the time the screening ended, nearly 45 minutes had passed. Their bags were messier, their spirits dimmer, their dignity scraped raw. Michelle leaned in with a faux sweet tone. Have a nice trip. Gate 16 boards soon. Hope you're not late. The twins didn't respond. They stepped away, slower this time. Their carefully folded clothes now crumpled. Ariana's laptop scuffed. Alina's journal disorganized. The allergy pills were returned last, without comment. Once out of earshot, Alina whispered, "They treated us like threats." Ariana didn't answer. She just rubbed her temple slowly, breathing through her nose. "We should eat something," Alina said, her voice hollow. "Something real. I can't fly on anything but fury." They wandered toward the SkyBridge food court and spotted a modern bistro-style restaurant. The Horizon table. Open tables, a short wait. A welcome moment of normalcy. The hostess, a blonde woman with sharp eyeliner and a sharper jaw, barely glanced up. Her name tag read Laura Hastings. "How many?" "Two," Ariana replied. Laura glanced at her tablet. "There'll be a 45-minute wait." Ariana looked past her shoulder. 5 empty tables stared back. "But," Alina started. "They're reserved," Laura cut in, already dismissing them. "Your website says you don't take reservations," Ariana said, holding up her phone with the open page. "It's first come, first served." Laura's jaw tightened. "The website's out of date." Just then, a white couple walked in behind them. Laura's entire demeanor changed, smile wide, voice honeyed. "Two, right this way." She grabbed menus and led them to one of the reserved tables. "Unreal," Alina muttered. "Excuse me," Ariana called after her. "We were here first." Laura turned back, eyes sharp. "Is there a problem?" "Yes, you told us there were no tables available, then seated them immediately." Before Laura could reply, a man in a white shirt and navy tie arrived. "Everything all right here?" he asked Laura, though his eyes pinned the twins like insects. "This is Keith Dawson," Laura explained, "our manager." "They're causing a disruption," she added. I explained the wait time. "That's not what happened," Alina replied. "We were polite. We were dismissed." "I'll need you to lower your voices," Keith said, though no one had raised them. "We have paying customers trying to enjoy their meals. If you continue this behavior," he added, "I'll be forced to call airport security." A waitress nearby, Latina, early 30s, shifted uncomfortably. She approached Keith quietly. "I can seat them at table 12. It's free now." Keith snapped without looking at her. "Elena, handle your other tables." The waitress backed away, casting an apologetic look at the twins before disappearing into the kitchen. "Find somewhere else to eat," Keith said quietly. "You're not welcome here." The message was loud and clear. As Ariana and Alina turned to leave, they heard Keith murmur to Laura behind them, "Good job. Can't let them think they run the place." Outside the restaurant, Alina's voice trembled. "Why does this keep happening?" Ariana slipped her arm around her sister's shoulders. "Because we keep walking into rooms that weren't built for us." They continued walking, not out of defeat, but out of decision. "We'll get something from a vending machine," Ariana said softly, "and then we deal with the gate." What they didn't know was that the worst had yet to come. By the time Ariana and Alina reached gate 16, the vending machine peanuts felt like sawdust in their mouths. They had managed to steady themselves. Barely. No more TSA agents. No more restaurant managers. Just a final scan, a final boarding lane, and they'd be on their way to New York. The digital screen above the gate blinked. SkyBridge Flight 237. On time. Boarding first-class passengers. Ariana glanced down at her boarding pass, the reissued one they'd received after a begrudging agent at customer service corrected the downgrade. It bore their names in seat 2A, 2B in thick black print. First class confirmed. She allowed herself a flicker of relief. Let's just get on the plane. They approached the gate agent, a man with thinning gray hair, a military haircut, and a cold efficiency in his movements. His name tag read Dennis Rourke. He greeted the white couple ahead of them with a nod and a bright welcome aboard. Then the twins stepped forward. Rourke's smile dropped like a mask peeled too soon. He took one look at their boarding passes and frowned, lips pressed into a thin line. There seems to be an issue here, he announced loudly enough for others in line to pause. Please step aside while I verify these. Alina's stomach dropped. What issue? These were fixed. We've already been reassigned back to first class. I'm going to need to see some identification, he replied, ignoring her statement. And please keep your voice down. They handed over their student IDs again, already knowing how this would go. Rourke scrutinized them as if he were appraising counterfeit currency, holding them up to the light, flipping them back and forth. These don't look official. Student IDs are easily fabricated. They're from Wellington Prep, Ariana said, her voice dry but composed. A top academic institution. Our school seal, our photos, everything's there. Rourke reached for the PA system mic. Security to gate 16, passenger verification required. The words echoed across the terminal like an accusation. People turned. Phones came out. Whispered speculation spread like smoke. This is discrimination, Alina said, no longer sugarcoating it. You didn't verify anyone else's ID, just ours. And we've already been through this twice. That's a serious claim, young lady, Rourke replied, color rising to his face. You should be careful about throwing around accusations. I'll stop accusing when you stop pretending this is standard procedure, Ariana said. We followed every rule. You just keep moving the goalpost. Before the situation could escalate further, a woman in a navy blazer approached from the far side of the gate. Smooth posture, quiet authority, and dark skin pulled into a tight bun. Her name tag read Andrea Miles, gate supervisor. Hope fluttered in Ariana's chest. Finally, someone who might understand. Rourke turned to her immediately. These two are attempting to board with suspicious first-class passes and invalid identification. They've been disruptive. Andrea smiled thinly. Let me handle this, Dennis. She motioned for the girls to step aside with her. Alina exhaled, whispering to Ariana, maybe this is it. But as soon as they were out of earshot of the other passengers, Andrea's tone changed. Her smile vanished. Her eyes cooled. Listen to me very carefully, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what game you two think you're playing, but this isn't how it works. Ariana blinked. Excuse me? Andrea leaned closer. People like us. We don't get to make a scene. We don't get to throw around words like discrimination and expect it to get us somewhere. Alina stared. People like us? You want equality? Andrea continued. Then you be twice as polite, twice as patient, and twice as quiet. That's how you earn respect, not by challenging the system every time you're uncomfortable. Ariana's throat burned. We haven't done anything wrong. You're making people nervous, Andrea said coldly. You're drawing attention, and that never ends well. She glanced down at the boarding passes. I'll let you on, this time, but I don't want to hear about another disruption. With that, she escorted them back toward the gate and gave Rourke a stiff nod. They're cleared. Rourke grunted but moved aside. As they passed, Ariana heard him mutter, unbelievable. The jet bridge loomed ahead, finally within reach. The door to the aircraft is just visible. Alina stepped on first, heart pounding. But 2 steps in, a tall figure blocked their path. A SkyBridge uniform, Muscular build, arms folded. His name tag read Gregory Walsh. "I need you to step aside," he said, eyes impassive. "There's been a flag on your reservation." Ariana's shoulders stiffened. "What kind of flag?" "Security concerns," he said flatly. "I can't let you board until we re-verify." "We've already been verified, repeatedly." "Step aside, ma'am." Passengers continued to board around them, eyes averted, pretending not to see. The twins were pushed against the wall of the jet bridge, trapped in limbo once again. Gregory made a series of hushed radio calls. Time passed. 20 minutes. 30. The flight's final call was announced. And then, the blow landed. "I'm afraid the flight is full," Gregory said. "Your seats have been reassigned." Ariana's voice was quiet. "You just let passengers board in front of us." "We had confirmed first-class seats." "You were flagged," Gregory shrugged. "Policy allows reassignment." "What policy?" Alina demanded. He reached for his radio again. "Security to Jet Bridge 16. Passenger issue." Within minutes, 2 security guards appeared, hands near their belts, faces unreadable. "They're refusing to comply," Gregory said. "We're refusing to be erased," Ariana corrected. But the guards stepped forward anyway. "Miss," one said, "you'll need to leave the gate area." Ariana looked at her sister. Alina's voice trembled as she whispered, "Call Dad." This time Ariana didn't hesitate. She pulled out her phone, pressed one contact, and put it on speaker. A deep voice answered on the first ring. "Sweetheart?" "Dad," Ariana said. "They didn't let us on. Again." There was silence, then a single measured response. "Stay right where you are. I'm activating Protocol Alpha, and I want you to record everything from now on." The line went quiet. But nothing would be silent for long, when silence is no longer an option. Ariana's phone was still glowing in her hand. Her father's voice had been steady, measured, so calm it frightened her more than if he had yelled. "Stay where you are. I'm activating Protocol Alpha." She and Alina exchanged a glance. Neither of them fully understood what that meant, but both instinctively knew something had shifted. The air had changed. They didn't move. Not from the bench they had claimed near Gate 16. 2 security guards loitered nearby, unsure whether they were supposed to intervene or simply observe. Gregory Walsh, the man who had denied them boarding only minutes before, stood stiffly behind the counter, pretending to read something on his tablet, but was rattled. 5 minutes passed. Then a call came on the SkyBridge executive office flashed on Ariana's screen. She answered. "Ariana Coleman." "Miss Coleman, this is Rachel Kim from headquarters," the strained voice said. "We sincerely apologize for the situation. We're arranging immediate private jet transport to New York. If you and your sister accompany our personnel to the VIP lounge." "No, thank you," Ariana replied coolly. "We're awaiting direct instructions from Jeremiah Coleman only." She ended the call. Alina's phone rang seconds later. Same number, same breathless apologies, same refusal. They remained seated, visible, silent, immovable. They would not be shuffled out of sight. They would not vanish. Then the first tremor of something bigger began to ripple across the terminal. The overhead speakers crackled to life. "Attention passengers. All SkyBridge Airlines flights are currently on hold due to executive-level safety verification protocol. We ask your patience." The departure boards began to change. One flight delayed, then another. Then all of them. Delayed, delayed, delayed. The entire network was grinding to a halt. Passengers started murmuring. China scrambled behind counters. Confusion began to bloom like a slow-motion explosion. SkyBridge Airlines, one of the largest carriers in the country, was no longer flying. Back in Manhattan, in the top-floor boardroom of SkyBridge headquarters, Victor Drake slammed his fist against a glass table. "He did what?" he barked at his assistant. "Sir, Mr. Coleman has activated Protocol Alpha." she replied shakily. All flights, all gates, grounded. Victor spun toward the window like it might offer a saner version of reality. Get me legal. Call the board. He just declared war on his airline. Meanwhile, Ariana and Alina were still seated. Their phones buzzed with messages, support, screenshots, news alerts. Carmen, the waitress from the restaurant, sent them a video of her manager's racist remarks. A fellow passenger texted, I saw what happened at the gate. I've got you covered. Here's my footage. Hashtags ignited. @Coleman twins. SkyBridge shut down. Discrimination delays. But beyond social media, a real war had begun behind closed doors. Victor convened an emergency board meeting within the hour. His voice was grave, his performance precise. Jeremiah Coleman just grounded 320 aircraft, tens of thousands of passengers, millions lost in market value. And for what? A personal incident involving his daughters. He gestured dramatically. I moved to suspend his authority, pending internal review. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. Then Jeremiah appeared on screen. Calm, crisp, deadly, clear. Before you vote, he said, you need to see this. He tapped a key. Documents, charts, and internal reports filled the screen. What you're looking at, he continued, is 5 years of buried discrimination complaints. SkyBridge's record is 11 times worse than the industry average. Most of these cases were ignored, some actively suppressed. He paused. My daughters didn't trigger a shutdown. They exposed a system we've all benefited from by pretending not to notice. The next slide showed internal emails, many with Victor Drake's name in the CC line, directing staff to deprioritize non-essential passenger escalations, including those marked by race-based complaints. Victor turned red. This is character assassination. It's a live board meeting, Victor, Jeremiah said smoothly. All of this is being recorded. Would you like to rephrase your earlier threat? The vote never happened. No hands were raised. Not one board member backed Victor. Elsewhere in the IT department, Devin Reed sat alone at his terminal. He had been ordered by Victor to erase footage, security logs, ID scans, gate recordings, everything. But now, he hesitated. Ariana had sent him an email. We're not asking you to choose sides, just choose what's right. Attached was evidence that the footage had already been backed up externally. Devin began encrypting the files, not deleting them, not this time. He replied to Jeremiah with a simple message, securing everything. I'll testify if needed. At gate 16, a new figure approached the twins, an elegant woman in a designer suit, followed by 4 silent security guards. I'm Stephanie Brooks, she said warmly, VP of Operations. Your father asked me to ensure your comfort. We've arranged a private lounge, away from all this chaos. Ariana stared back. He told us to remain visible. Stephanie's smile tightened. There's a media circus forming. If you care about your father's position. Alina's phone was already on speaker. Jeremiah's voice cut through the tension like a scalpel. Stephanie, this is Jeremiah Coleman. If you attempt to pressure my daughter again, clear out your office before security escorts you out. You're done. Stephanie froze. Color drained from her face. She said nothing, only turned and walked away, heels clicking like the ticking of a countdown. She could no longer control. The twins remained seated. Behind them, the departure board blinked with delays. In front of them, the entire airport now buzzed with confusion and consequence. But they didn't flinch. Not when the chaos grew louder. Not when the cameras turned. Not even when the rumors began spinning beyond their control. Alina leaned toward her sister. Is this what a reckoning looks like? Ariana, still holding her phone, nodded. No, this is just the sound of something old breaking. And beyond the breaking, something better was waiting to be built. Not every gate is a door, but some refusals open more than entryways. The terminal was still. Not quiet, no, far from it. But still, in that way, a city holds its breath just before dawn, after the grounding, after the footage, after the boardroom silence. People were watching, listening, rethinking. And Ariana and Alina, who had simply refused to vanish, were now being escorted back to Gate 16, not by security, but by the CEO himself. Jeremiah Coleman didn't walk like an executive that morning. He walked like a father. No entourage, no press conference, no microphone. Just a tall black man in a navy overcoat and tired eyes who had used every ounce of institutional power not to shield his daughters, but to reveal the systems that failed them, that failed so many before them. When they met halfway down the jet bridge, he didn't speak. Neither did they. He pulled them into his arms. And in that quiet, the cameras finally got something real. Grief, love, truth, and something stronger than outrage. Resolve. A new flight was prepared, not just for the twins, but for every passenger who had been bumped, belittled, dismissed, or ignored by a process that forgot its purpose. Before boarding, Jeremiah paused. He turned to face the small group gathered behind him, employees, agents, executives. He spoke not from a podium, but from lived understanding. "This isn't about my children," he began. "This is about every young person who's ever been told they don't belong in a seat they've already earned. Every traveler who's been asked to prove more than a ticket. Every employee is afraid to report what they know is wrong." He lifted the lanyard from around his neck, his corporate access badge, and placed it in Ariana's hand. "Starting today," he said, "SkyBridge launches a new program, Flight 237, Equity First Boarding. We will redesign not only how we seat passengers, but how we see them." Alina stepped forward then, pulling out a folded paper from her jacket, something she had scribbled the night before on the hotel notepad after the incident. It was a list of new rules, not airline policy, but personal pledges. We don't raise our voices unless silence fails. We don't accept apologies without accountability. We don't shame people for not knowing, only for refusing to learn. We don't demand seats. We demand sight. We never forget, the gate was never the destination. The gate was the test. She handed the list to the media without another word. Later that month, airports across the country would post those 5 rules in staff lounges. Flight crews would attend a new mandatory training titled Boarding Tomorrow, Recognition Before Rules. A new ethics board, led by passengers, not just executives, would oversee boarding discrimination claims. And a subtle but powerful change would ripple outward. No more first-class passengers being escorted through a velvet rope while others were stared down. No more assumptions based on age, race, or quietness. No more unspoken belief that luxury meant exclusion. Instead, airports started asking a different question at every gate. Do we see this person fully? Or are we only seeing what makes us comfortable? The final scene, months later, a little girl boarded Flight 237 wearing a backpack covered in pins, each one shaped like a tiny airplane. She was nervous, alone, first time flying. The gate agent knelt, smiled, and asked, "What's your name, sweetheart?" She replied softly, "Amaya." The agent's smile widened. "Well, Amaya, this seat has your name on it, not because of your last name, not because of your skin, but because you belong. You always have." And behind the counter, framed in polished glass, hung a small plaque with 5 handwritten rules, signed Ariana and Alina Coleman. The moral of the story: true justice doesn't come from privilege. It comes from what you do when that privilege is threatened. We must challenge systems not only when they hurt us, but when they quietly erase others. The gatekeepers of tomorrow won't be the ones who simply open doors. They'll be the ones who rebuild the walls so no one is ever asked, "Are you sure you were in the right place?" again.